Hello everyone, my name is Garrett, and today is a great day to learn something new.
So let's do that together. My name is Gabe, and welcome to Studio Classroom.
Exactly, friends. Thanks for joining us again as we continue talking about our best friends. Well, at least the ones that we can't talk to.
That's right, the best friends that you can't talk to or understand, right? We're talking about our pets. Of course, dogs are known as man's best friend, and for good reason as well. Dogs often do make very great pets. And I grew up with cats, as I shared yesterday. But something that I learned from our lesson, Garrett, yesterday was that cats like to have a place where they can hide away. I think I always knew that about my cats, but I didn't have a way to put it into words until I read that part of yesterday's lesson.
Right. Maybe if you want to have a pet, doing some research about how you can make their lives a bit easier could be quite helpful. Well, just to remind everyone, our lesson is called Further Insight. What your pet is really thinking. Let's get right into our lesson together now. Further insight. What your pet is really thinking. Pet psychology can also help facilitate your understanding of small pets, such as birds and rabbits. Despite their tiny size, their emotional needs should not be underestimated. Highly intelligent, birds need mental stimulation through toys and puzzles to stay happy. Because most birds in the wild live in flocks, keeping more than one can boost their mental health. Rabbits also need lots of social time with a companion or their favorite human. Well, in yesterday's lesson, we learned all about pet behavior as it relates to dogs and cats. Today, let's get into a few other pet animals.
We read here, pet psychology can also help facilitate your understanding of small pets, such as birds and rabbits. There are many types of pets, right? We also used to have hamsters and guinea pigs when we were growing up. Those are definitely smaller pets. Despite their tiny size, their emotional needs should not be underestimated.
Ooh, and that is a great word at the end of that sentence, underestimated. If you underestimate something or someone, you think it's less powerful or important than it really is.
That's right. For example, the students underestimated how hard the exam would be. I know you've felt that way before, friends. Well, we continue here. Highly intelligent birds need mental stimulation through toys and puzzles to stay happy. Now, that's an interesting term right there, or a couple of words. Highly intelligent. This is another way of saying very or extremely smart.
Exactly. We know that dolphins are known to be highly intelligent animals. They even come up with different games to play with each other. Well, the same is true for birds here, and they need mental stimulation.
Stimulation. This is something that causes activity, interest, or often excitement.
For example, babies need lots of stimulation to learn and grow in their early years. You know, one thing we could do for birds is give them a Sudoku puzzle.
I'm not exactly sure if that's the kind of puzzle we're talking about here, Garrett.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe there's different types of puzzles that birds actually enjoy. But yes, birds are highly intelligent creatures. Because most birds in the wild live in flocks, keeping more than one can boost their mental health. Well, let's take a look at that phrase, in the wild. This means in nature. In other words, not in homes or zoos.
Exactly. For example, elephants live in the wild in parts of Africa and Asia. So, in the wild, birds are normally like this. They live in flocks. Flocks are just groups of birds
that all live and travel together.
That's right. We use this word flock for some other groups of animals as well, like maybe a flock of geese or a flock of sheep. There are other words we use for other groups of animals. For example, when it comes to elephants, we might use the word herd. There is a herd of elephants. But here we're talking about how birds live in flocks. There's a saying we have in English, birds of a feather flock together. That means they fly or stay together.
Exactly. So it might be a good idea to keep more than one bird together, and we hear that can help their mental health. The one other animal we'll talk about here is rabbits. They also need lots of social time with a companion or their favorite human.
And hopefully their favorite human is you. But it is nice if there is another rabbit friend that they can spend time with as well. Friends, let's get into our next reading for the day.
Further insight: what your pet is really thinking. Training also plays a substantial role in a pet's emotional health. Just like people, pets learn better when they feel safe, understood, and encouraged. But animals are not humans and should be interacted with in ways that are natural to them and not viewed as a furry baby.
The first word of our next section makes me think a lot about raising a dog. Dogs need a lot of training. We train and teach them how to do certain things.
In fact, certain people are called dog trainers. They are trained, they know how to train your dogs, right? So we see here training also plays a substantial role in a pet's emotional health. What is emotional health? This is the condition of your feelings and ability to handle emotions.
Right. For example, talking to someone can improve your overall emotional health.
So, just like people, pets learn better when they feel safe, understood, and encouraged. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel understood, and it's really nice to feel encouraged. When you feel encouraged, that's the feeling of having support or hope.
Right. Your teacher might leave you feeling encouraged by the things they say to you. They might say things like, "good job," or "you've really improved a lot." And I think this makes sense for a pet. Of course, your dog might not understand all the words that you use, but they can understand the emotions you're trying to show.
Yeah, that's right. They certainly pick up on your body language. In fact, some people kind of abuse this fact, right, to their dog. Instead of saying, "nice doggy," they'll use the same tone of voice and say, "hey, stupid doggy," but the dog is just wagging the tail. It's happy because of your tone of voice, right? That's what they pick up on. But we read here, but animals are not humans and should be interacted with in ways that are natural to them and not viewed as just a furry baby.
Okay, that is interesting. Let's get into a couple of things there, starting with the phrase interacted with. It's communicated or worked with someone or something.
That's right. We all interact in different ways. And of course, you may interact with your classmates during your group project. If you're giving a speech somewhere, hopefully you're interacting with your audience as well. So animals will interact in different ways. And so we need to understand what those ways are and not just view them as our little furry babies or furry pets. A furry baby is just a cute way to express what a pet is, especially one with fur.
Right, it might be a little nickname someone gives for their pet. You might say, "look at my little furry baby all asleep there."
That's right. Well, do you actually understand your furry baby? That's kind of what our lesson is getting at, or raising awareness about. Friends, we do have more to learn in the last section of our lesson, but first, let's go to today's Info Cloud.
Further insight: what your pet is really thinking. Another important facet of pet psychology is the environment. Pets need spaces where they can express their natural behaviors. In addition to playtime, dogs need outdoor walks so they can be stimulated by sniffing a variety of smells. Cats require scratching posts, climbing spots, and hiding places. Birds desire opportunities to stretch their wings and explore. Meeting these needs helps prevent anxiety and even health problems. At the heart of it all, pet psychology is about empathy. It's about seeing the world through your pet's eyes, understanding their needs, and building a bond based on trust.
All right, friends, have you put the lessons you're learning into play to understand what your pet is thinking? Let's learn a little bit more about how we can help our pets.
We're going to learn about the importance of the environment here. We read another important facet of pet psychology is the environment. Facet often means aspect. It's one aspect or part or side of something that has many parts.
Exactly. You might say honesty is an important facet of friendship. Well, yes, pets need spaces where they can express their natural behaviors.
That's right. Of course, pets, before they came into your home, they were out in the wild. Maybe they were stray cats or dogs walking down the street, but then you brought them into your home. But either way, they have their own natural instincts, okay, their natural behaviors. In addition to playtime, dogs need outdoor walks so they can be stimulated by sniffing a variety of smells. I wonder what those smells are. But let's take a look at that word stimulated here. This means made active, interested, or excited.
Exactly. Bright colors and music can stimulate anyone, especially a baby.
Okay, what else do dogs do? If you're a dog owner, or if you have a pet dog, you know that they love sniffing around. Sniffing is smelling by taking air in through the nose.
Exactly. The dog was sniffing around for food. That's one example with that phrase. It really does kind of just mean smelling, but often in search of something.
That's right. And we all know that dogs don't only sniff around for food, they also sniff around to see what other dog has been somewhere, right? And they also like to mark their territory in another way that is not mentioned in our lesson. But getting back to our lesson, let's talk about cats now. Cats require scratching posts, climbing spots, and hiding places. What's a scratching post, Garrett?
Well, it's kind of like a small structure you can put in your house, maybe made of ropes or other materials that cats can scratch at with their claws. That's part of their natural behavior, and they need that even if they're in your home.
That's right. You know, speaking of, some people like to declaw their cats, and I just want to say that's not a humane thing to do. In other words, that's not a nice thing to do to your cat. You want to train your cat not to scratch certain furnitures or people especially, but don't declaw your cat.
Or remove their claws is what that means. All right, we read here, birds desire opportunities to stretch their wings and explore. Meeting these needs helps prevent anxiety and even health problems. That seems like one of the hardest ones to do in your home.
You mean let your bird go out of its cage?
Fly around? Yeah.
Fly around. Exactly, because what if it flies around and you have a window open or a door open somewhere? They're just going to fly away. Oh well, there goes your birdie. Well, not really. We hope you can keep your birdie. But friends, you do want to find a way for it to be able to fly around. We read here, at the heart of it all, pet psychology is about empathy. Let's take a look at a couple of things here. First, that phrase, the heart of something.
All right, if something is at the heart of something, that means that's the most important or the central part of that thing.
Teamwork is at the heart of a great school project. Well, friends, another word we want to talk about here is the word empathy. This is the ability to understand and share someone else's feelings.
All right, we talked about this earlier this month. Showing empathy helps build strong friendships as you can start to understand what someone else has gone through.
So we read here, it's about seeing the world through your pet's eyes, understanding their needs, and building a bond based on trust. So we don't only need to trust the other humans in our lives, we also need to be able to trust our pets and let our pets know that they can trust us.
Exactly. Don't just expect them to behave like another human. They are an animal after all, and each of them has their own specific needs. Well, friends, speaking of needs, we need to go over and watch our fun fact.
All right, friends, to finish today's lesson, let's talk about that other talk about it question. It's a long one. In what ways can applying pet psychology to small animals and their environments lead to better emotional and physical health for them? Garrett, what do you think?
Well, I'm sure in many ways. Yes, we talked about small animals a lot more today. I think in one way, when I was a kid, our family had a guinea pig, and we didn't really give it the right environment that it needed. That led to quite a few health problems for it.
You know, that reminds me of a turtle that we had. I wasn't very good at cleaning the water. You do need to do that regularly, and it's not good for turtles or other creatures like that to live in dirty water. Friends, we want to show better care for our pets. That's all the time that we have for today. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Garrett. Of course, we'll see you again right here on Studio Classroom.